Hi guys, this is Stormmouse03.
And I'm Iron Praetorian.
Welcome to Ramblings of Mad People, April 2024. It was a month that happened.
It was.
So, what did we do in the month of April 2024 other than, just get a little bit stupider as our brains continue to deteriorate with age?
I mean, I did like 3 shorties, a medium, and one very long game. But the very long one will be covered next month because it went all the way through April into May.
Yeah. Same for me. I guess technically I only got one completion in the month of April. And then I started a new venture called Playing Retro Games for Fun.
Yeah, which you enjoyed.
Which I enjoyed. So I played a couple of games that I'll talk about that were just retro playthroughs, not necessarily 100% completes. And then I played one very long game, not as long as your very long game, but it still did take me into May to complete it. So that
my very long one was Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yes,
which I embarked on the single player.
Yep. And my long one was Death Stranding. So, but again, that'll be for May because I didn't quite finish it up until into May. So, I guess I'll start because I had a completion on April 1st.
So did I. But I covered it last month, which was The Witcher 3.
That's funny. So we have both had April Fool's Day completions.
Yep. Geralt, you're a fool.
And mine was for a game called The Gunk that I played on Games Pass on Xbox. And it was a cool little indie game where it's kind of like an exploration game, sort of exploration puzzle with a little bit of fighting. And
interesting.
So you are this person, and it's kind of, a futuristic kind of a thing. I feel like it's sort of a cyberpunk type future.
In that grain.
In that grain, like in space where, corporations have kind of taken over a lot of space, and you are on a ship that you run with one other person and your character, and they're almost out of fuel and almost out of money, and so they're landing on this planet that's sort of unknown, trying to hopefully find some resources that they can sell. And you explore the planet, and you find that it's covered in this gunk, this unknown substance. And you can vacuum it up with an attachment on your arm. The character, she has a prosthetic arm, and there's a vacuum attachment for it, and you vacuum up all the gunk to clear it away and reveal, and it helps revitalize the planet and whatnot. And as you play through, you kind of uncover the mystery of kind of an alien civilization that lived here in the past, that you find ruins and stuff as you're exploring and clearing out, and this gunk and where it came from and what it is and what's going on. So, and you fight a couple little gunk creatures and that sort of thing. So it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was pretty quick, 8-ish hours to 100% complete, and it was a fun one. So I would recommend that one for anybody it sounds like that's something that's interesting, little third-person action exploration, spacey kind of game.
Nice. Yeah. My second completion after The Witcher was Lego The Hobbit.
Nice.
I got it on sale. I've played it before, a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, I can't play Lego Lord of the Rings on my PS4, so I'll get Lego The Hobbit instead. It's odd. So it's the first two movies, and then it doesn't cover the third.
Yeah.
Even though the third's like Battle of the Five Armies, and it's like one chapter in the book. It just seems odd to me that they never added it in as DLC.
Yeah.
Like, there was plans to, and they just didn't. So it feels kind of unfinished.
Yeah, like they scrapped the plans for that DLC.
Yeah, I don't know whether the game didn't do very well, or Warner Brothers just decided... I think it was Warner Brothers.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, they just decided not to in the end. I guess they didn't think it was worth it. But, I mean, it's a Lego game. Like, I like playing through the levels, getting all the mini kits, and getting, like, whatever the true hero, like, getting a set number of studs, which is, like, the currency in. But it's one of those where I feel like the hub world is just too big, and there's too many of the same thing to do.
Yeah.
And it had a day-night cycle as well, so it just kind of... It was irritating when you do a quest in the day, and then you'd have to change it to night to do the next part, and then change it to the day to do the next bit, and it just was a lot of, like, backwards and backtracking. We also had a few glitches here and there. There's like, I had one where it was you needed to hit these targets to open a door, but the targets didn't render properly, and so the game was having a little freak out where they were just kind of phasing in and out of existence, and I was like, that's problematic. And I found the only way to be able to get it to work properly was to turn tutorials back on. And it's like you needed to have this little tutorial stone still available next to the door for it to work, which was weird.
Yeah.
It's just, I like the Lego games, at least the ones in the past. Like, I really like the Lego Jurassic Park and Lego Lord of the Rings. And I know Lego Lord of the Rings has a big open world, but I feel like some of the other ones, like the Marvel ones, they're too big, and there's too many things stacked on top of each other, and it gets confusing as to where you need to go to get certain things, because you're like, well, I've been here before, how do I get down underneath or above?
Right, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think that Lego games, they definitely can suffer from having too big of a hub world and too many things to do, and just having too much to do to complete it, right?
Yeah. And a lot of the more modern ones have DLCs. Thankfully, this one... Well, not thankfully this one didn't. Sadly, this one didn't. It's one of the few where I'll say it needed DLC to feel complete. Whereas with the other ones, I'm like, oh, great, DLC.
I mean, but honestly, like, should they have released a game that was unfinished? Like, the story's unfinished?
Well, I think the intention was they would release it while it was popular.
Yeah, and then...
I don't know.
And did it come out before the last movie came out? And
yes,
so that's
it came out before the last movie. That's why it wasn't in there.
Okay. And
but it's still... Yeah, I was like, why didn't they release it after the third movie?
Right, like...
But the trouble with the third movie is it's one big battle sequence, and so it's like, would there have been enough levels?
I mean, they're fine to, like...
They'd figure out a way to make them,
They'd figure out a way to make levels out of it. I mean, they figured out how to make a whole movie out of it, so...
Yeah, embellishment.
Creative license.
Uh-huh. But anyway, if you like if you like Lego games and you like The Hobbit and you're okay with it missing the final bit, it was fun enough. Took me about 45 hours.
Yeah.
To complete.
Yeah, I think it was about the same when I did Lego DC Supervillains earlier this year.
Yeah.
So I feel like Lego games around that size or smaller, I really enjoy. And when they get to the size where they're like 60, 70, 80 hours, that's when they feel way too long.
Lego Marvel Superheroes 2 was just so bloated. It's just not fun.
Yeah.
I will say, like, the ones that I've played, like, on PlayStation with Lego Jurassic World, and because that's another one that doesn't include the other two, and Lego Harry Potter, they were good because the hub world was in sections and it wasn't like one big area with things overlapping with each other, so you could go do what you needed to do in one area and know you'd done it and not have to worry about, like, well, there's 20 different things in here, how do I get to them all? It's like, okay, I've done the 10 here, I've done the 5 here.
Yeah.
It feels a lot more manageable, and you can do chunks at a time rather than being like, oh my god, there's a whole map and I've got so much left to do, and it's just a little overwhelming.
Yeah. DC Supervillains was like that too. Like it had the map sort of sectioned off into areas, and it showed how much percent you'd completed of each one. So
nice.
it was nice that way. So yeah, and it had fast travel where you could fast travel around to different sections.
Lego The Hobbit had fast travel as well. You just hitched a ride on an eagle.
Yeah, nice.
Which was cool.
Nice. So cool. Well, I'm glad that you had fun with that one. The next thing that I played was part of my new goal to pull out some of my old consoles / acquire some old consoles.
Yeah.
And I'm calling this retro. I think a lot of people only consider like cartridge games retro, or I don't know what the exact qualifications are for it, but I would consider anything Xbox 360, PS3, Wii, and earlier is retro now, because it's about 20 years since they came out.
I mean, just say it's retro and just say what you mean by retro, and it's like, you know, the original Xbox and earlier is retro.
Yeah, like I would say, you know, 360, Wii, PS3, those are on the cusp. You know, they're 3 console generations behind at this point and about to be 4. Because, you know, the new Switch is going to be coming out soon, probably, and the next iteration of whatever Sony and Microsoft are going to do is not long to follow, I'm sure. So I'm defining retro as anything sort of Xbox 360, PS3. I don't have a PS3, so I won't, or at least I don't have one right now, so I won't include that. But Xbox 360, Wii, and then earlier is how I define retro, because like I said, they're about 20 years since those consoles released. 19 years ago for the Xbox 360, and I think the same for the PS3. And I'm not quite sure when the Wii came out. Did that come out before or after?
No, after
the 360.
I'm sure it's after.
While Iron Praetorian looks up that date.
Yeah, November. It was about a year later. It was 2006.
2006. Okay, so 18 to 19 years ago at this point. They're old. And so I pulled out my PS2 out of storage that I hadn't ever played. I bought it off of a friend back when I think the PS3s came out, or shortly before, and he was looking to sell it, and I bought it off of him, and then it's been sitting in a box ever since that time. And so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna pull that out and see if it works and play some games on it. And I had to buy some games because I didn't have any. So the first one that I completed, I've played a couple others but haven't finished playing through them, but the first one that I completed was SOCOM US Navy SEALs. Which is an old kind of third-person shooter stealth game where you are a team. You play as a team of US Navy SEALs, and you control one character, and you can direct the other three. Or you can play it in co-op, I think, and have another person couch co-op the other person that's on your team. And so you two would be controlling the two characters and then be directing the other two AI characters.
Oh, cool.
So that's pretty cool. I played it solo, so I didn't have another person to play it with me, but it was cool. Like, you could give them commands, and you had different objectives, and you had to sneak in or try to sneak in and do these objectives, very similar to any sort of army type game that you can think of. So like Call of Duties and that sort of thing. Similar types of objectives where you're going and trying to save hostages or disarm bombs or take out terrorists and that sort of thing. And it was difficult on some of the levels.
Yeah, you showed me some of the levels, and it looked hard to see
well,
half the time.
The graphics at this point on my big screen HD TV just don't look the best. I think it would probably look better if I had an old TV, an older TV with a smaller screen, but I made do with it. But the reason why it was hard was not necessarily because I couldn't see what I was doing. It was because there were no checkpoints during the missions at all. And there were multiple ways to fail. And so you could fail sometimes by getting spotted and not taking out the person who could radio for help in time. And it's like, kill the commander who has the radio. Well, where is he? Don't know. There's no map marker for that. So good luck. And so you could fail that way. You could obviously fail by getting killed. You could fail if your whole team was killed other than you. You needed to have one other surviving member of your team. And sometimes the AI was not super smart and you really needed to micromanage, direct them around in order to keep them doing what you wanted them to do. And sometimes you could fail by if one of the hostages that you were trying to escort dies. So there were lots of different ways that you could fail a level. None of the levels were super long. Like, whenever I completed them, they were always 15 to 20 minutes. But that's 15 to 20 minutes where you can't do anything wrong and you have to complete the objectives and not hit any of those failure points. And so some of them I found pretty easy and I got them first try, and others were hellacious and it took me a couple hours to get through a mission, right? Because I just had to do it over and over again. But I was happy to complete that one. It was a nice throwback and a good reminder, I think, of some of those older games were difficult in places to be able to get through. So
yeah, I think a lot of those retro games are actually harder than modern games because they didn't implement certain things. There was no saves, like checkpoints not being available, saves. Even like Sonic back in the day. It's like you had a number of lives and then you were done.
Yeah.
You could put cheats in to get to the levels that you wanted to get to, but
yeah. And so, it feels very akin to something that might be an achievement or trophy list today, where it's like get through each mission without failing, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that. That we think of probably as harder sets of achievements and trophies, but that's just how it was. That was just the game. So, yeah.
So my next game was Coffee Talk, which I've played before. All of these games I've played before, by the way. I played it on the PS5 this time. I don't auto-pop anything. Like, I always just replay the game through. I don't know if you can with Coffee Talk. But I make sure I have no saves on my PS5 from my PS4 or even on the cloud, just to be doubly sure. But yeah, that one's a nice, chill, kind of fun little story about a coffee shop, and you actually have to like make the coffee, and there's different recipes, and it's just nice. It's a good indie game. Takes about 10 hours, I think it took me.
That sounds about right.
Just because I didn't skip any of the cutscenes or any of the conversation, because you can just run through it if you really want to. And then there was like the challenge mode, which is to just you basically have to like serve 50 coffees or 50 drinks, because it's not just coffee. There's like hot chocolate, warm milk, tea, green tea. You have to serve 50 in a little challenge mode, and each one you get right gives you some time back onto the clock. But it's also super easy because you can just pause it, look up what you need to make, and then make it, and then pause it again. And it's like you start off easily where people are like, oh, I just want an espresso. But as you progress further through, they're like, I want some. So it's like sweet, warm, cool. I can't remember what the fourth one is, but there's four different flavors, and so it's like you have to figure out what
Bitter?
combination of things. Bitter. There we go. You have to figure out what combination of things you need to put together to be able to make the right drink for them, and sometimes there just isn't one.
Yes.
And so you just serve them whatever you can, so you don't waste time.
Yeah, I found
So it doesn't
that on
matter if you
Coffee
serve
Talk
a wrong
too,
one.
as well. That
Yeah.
sometimes they'll give you something that's just impossible to make.
Yep, and you're like, oh, never mind.
Yep.
But it's set in like a kind of it's like a fantasy modern setting where there's humans and werewolves and a bunch of other mythical creatures that are just going about their daily lives, and you run the coffee shop and talk to your patrons and try and kind of help them out through the medium of serving them the right drink at the right time. So yeah, it was fun to go and play again, and nice to play something that wasn't super long.
Yeah, because you've been doing some super long ones, so that was
Yeah,
that was
I mean,
an
The Witcher
interlude,
was-
right?
A good, let's see, yeah, like over 100 hours, because I did the DLC. So I have like some short. I mean, like the Lego The Hobbit wasn't exactly short. It was
No.
like 40.
It's about an average.
So I was like, I just want to do a few short ones.
Yeah. Nice.
Before assaulting the mountain that was Red Dead Redemption 2's single player.
Yeah. Nice. Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed that one again for the second time.
Yep.
Because you played it
Third.
before on Xbox, right?
Yeah, I've also played the PS4 version as
Oh,
well.
okay. So this was your third go round with Coffee Talk.
Third go
Yep.
round.
Yep.
Yep.
Cool. And then my last thing that I completed this month, or last month, goodness me, was another game that was for an older console. And this is a console that I never owned, but I recently picked one up on Facebook Marketplace.
Nice.
And grabbed a Wii. And this was one of the games that came with it that the person was selling. And so I was like testing it out, and I found it difficult. It's called The Conduit 2, and it's kind of a sci-fi shooter, first-person shooter, and it reminded me a little bit of original Halo on the OG,
Like Combat Evolved.
on the OG Xbox, just in terms of graphics and that sort of thing, like the alien
Yeah,
design
the
and
Wii
that
was
sort of
never
thing.
the best graphically.
No. No. And this definitely isn't the greatest graphics of all time. So yeah, it kind of reminded me of that sort of style of like alien planets and aliens and just, those sorts of graphics and whatever. Definitely not as good as Halo. Like, Halo was a masterpiece. this was pretty good. Like it's an acceptably fun shooter.
It's like a solid B.
Yeah, it's a B game. It's a B movie. It's a double A is what it felt like, right?
Not a quadruple A.
Not a quadruple A. But yeah, it was pretty fun. I found it difficult to do with the Wiimote, but I found at a thrift store a classic controller for the Wii, and so I grabbed that, and it played much better on the controller, at least for me. Like I think it worked well enough with the motion controls, but I wasn't gonna play much more after the first couple of levels with the Wiimote, just because it was, I don't know, I found it disorienting trying to turn with the Wiimote and whatever.
Yeah.
And so but it played much better on the classic controller, and so I played through it and finished it, and it was pretty fun. It was like going through these conduits to different areas to try to take down these aliens that were trying to destroy the universe or whatnot, right? Pretty simple premise, but it was fun. I enjoyed it well enough. I enjoyed it well enough that I played through the whole thing. I wasn't sure I was going to, but I did. So
it's nice when you like dip your toe in something and then go, oh yeah, no, I'll continue with this. So it's fun.
Yep. Yeah.
So I've got 2 completions left for April. So I did Raji and Ancient Epic, which is like a Hindu mythology story, kind of, where you play through as Raji, who's trying to track down her brother who's been kidnapped, and it has like narration by a couple of Hindu gods, and you can find some like story extra like insights into Hindu mythology as you travel through the story from these frescoes and stuff. It's fun. It's just like an action adventure type, kind of half top down. I guess hack and slash.
Okay.
You get like, like a dungeon crawler kind of, but it's
yeah.
But it's not really a dungeon. It's just like areas.
Yeah.
And you have like little sections.
Adventure.
Yeah, and it's like you have little sections where you have combat, and then there's some traversal stuff, and then there's combat, and it's all like Hindu style, which is cool. Yeah, if you like that kind of game, I'm not going to go into any details because the story's like the important part. So
yeah,
I've played it before, but it doesn't have a platinum for the PS4 version, but it does for the PS5, which I haven't played, and sadly there's no like free update for the PS5 version, so I'd have to wait for that to go on sale again. But yeah, it was fun to go through again, and it's nice and short. It's only like 3 to 4 hours. The only thing that annoyed me was there's collectibles that you can get that give you like points to put in skills. I missed one because I jumped one platform too far. And I couldn't get back. I tried for like half an hour to get back.
No.
I think if I hadn't have missed that, I might have been the fastest person to complete it on PSN profiles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, yeah.
It happens.
It happens. It's very easy to do stuff with something like that where there's no saves and it's only auto saves.
Yep, and that's why manual saves save your ass.
Yep. And so, you go a little bit too far. I've definitely done that with collectibles before where it's like, oh no, now I can't get back there. Now I'm going to have to play I'm going to have to go back in chapter select, or sometimes you have to play the whole game again.
Yeah, it had chapter select, and the good thing was, it was in like the third section of a level. We had to go to the first and second sections to unlock the third, but it kept that progress where the door was already open, so I didn't need to do the first 2 sections. I just went straight through to the third one.
Nice.
So that actually kind of was nice, that it was like, oh yeah, you've already activated the mechanism that opened the big door. You can just go through the big door now.
Sweet.
It's like, yay.
Well, that's cool.
Yay for not being too terrible. And then my last platinum was Witchwood, which I've played on Xbox before. And it's like a crafting adventure, effectively, where you play as this witch who is trying to collect these evil souls for the devil to save a maiden who's been cursed. And he's like, I'll help lift the curse if you acquire me some souls. And so there's like different creatures you have to figure out a way to get their soul. So there's like the leech who's posing as a doctor who keeps killing people. And then there's the ox who's like obsessed with having the best like farm possible. And he may have traded away something precious for the ability to do so. And so you kind of have to like find clues and craft certain things to give to certain people to progress the quests. And so it's fun to like figure out what ingredients you need, and there's different areas you need to go to. So there's like the fields and the forest and the town, and sometimes you have to backtrack to different areas, but there's a big like there's warp gates in each area, and you just go to this little Nexus hub thing and go from one to the other. So it's not too bad. It's just, it was fun up until the last like couple of souls where you have to, there's so many steps to craft the thing that you need that you're crafting things you've already crafted before and having to do a lot of it, and then you have to backtrack, and it's just a little bit too much, but that's the only downside. Like, the art style's good. It played a lot better on my PS4 than it did on my Xbox One. Like, I had really bad frame rate issues with the Xbox One version, but the PS4 version ran totally fine, except for the one room where the girl is. For some reason, it just lagged a little bit in there, and that was the only one. But yeah, it kind of makes me think of Don't Starve kind of art style, like that kind of the way that's presented, where you have to like kill creatures and harvest things, and the way you like run around. It just gives me Don't Starve vibes. It's slightly different. You can die, but it's like you just kind of drop some of the stuff that you had, and you can return to where your body was and pick them up again. But you can just craft a bunch of health potions. So if you have 3 hearts, if you get hit 3 times, you die. But it's like you get down to 1 heart, just take a potion, and it refills your health. So yeah, I would recommend that one. I enjoyed it. It's a good B game. Yeah,
I definitely think that I would like that game, and it's on my kind of list to watch out for when I need more games, which at the moment
is never.
I don't.
but there's a place in the fields area where there's a big field of sunflowers that I always send you a screenshot of every time I get there in the game. I'm like, I'm here again. Here's your favorite flower.
Oh, yeah. I like sunflowers. They're sunny and they have good seeds. They
do. So yeah, all in all, a decent beginning of the month for me, but yeah, that from mid-April to mid-May was something.
Yeah, I know you were deeply invested in getting through with Red Dead 2.
Well, the trouble is that I had it lined up as my 5,000th trophy, and so I couldn't play anything else until I got it done.
Right, yeah.
And we spent, I think, like 100 hours, about 100 hours doing the multiplayer, because we did an extra 50 hours doing some collecting and just messing around.
Yeah.
And I finished the single player at 364 hours, so it took me over like 200 to do the single player.
Yeah.
In the space of about a month.
Yeah, it's a big game with a lot to do.
This is coming from the point that we're recording this like a week and a half into May.
Yeah, no, of course.
But from that perspective, yeah, it's a lot. But I'm now free.
Yes.
From milestone shenaniganery.
Yes.
For the moment.
Yes, and then you can, play what you want. which
I've
is
also
nice.
come to the realization after our little talk about burnout and stuff that my goal of 50 plats this year, I don't know if I'm going to manage it, and I'm not going to worry about it until maybe if I get to the end of the year and I'm like 10 plats short, I might do like a speed run month like I do where I, get 10 plats in a month.
For sure.
Or 2, like I've done in November with completions before for Xbox and for PlayStation. And so I'm more like, I just kind of want to play stuff and have fun, and I have Fallout 4 to play again because I've done the upgrade to PS5. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, me too. I'm looking forward to that as well. I think I've played that one a little bit more recently than you have, but I'm still looking forward to going back to it. I wish that they would do remasters of 3 and New Vegas.
Yeah, I know.
I think that would be neat if they did that. But
I think it would be nice to get the original Assassin's Creed, especially with PlayStation players that never had the opportunity to get trophies in it.
Yeah, that's right. Because it was before the trophy time.
It was. Because that's something I have, is all the achievements, and you do as well. But people on PlayStation, there was nothing.
Can't.
There's just
Can't get the trophies for finding all those flags and all those Templars and...
the one that glitches through the floor, yeah. Wunderbar.
Yep. So, yeah, but like with having most of the other ones that you can play on PS4 at least.
Yeah, because you can play
would be
2.
Nice.
You can play 2 Brotherhood Revelations, 3 Black Flag, Rogue, Unity, and all the other and the ones that released afterwards. So even the ones that didn't originally release on the PS4, you can play all of them except for the first one.
Yep. And so because the PS5 is backwards compatible with the PS4, you can play all of those games on PS5 except Assassin's Creed 1. Yep.
I feel like a little bit with Mirage, it's kind of like an homage to the first one because it's set in the Middle East again. But it's like, no, I want the first one.
but actually, we want the proper first game. Yeah, no, that would be neat. It's getting about, like, as we were talking about kind of retro games and what's retro and whatnot. We're getting to the point now where a lot of the games that released on the PS3, Xbox 360, Wii generation, the 7th generation games, are starting to get remasters and remakes on modern consoles, because I've heard about several of them. I was really excited. I heard Epic Mickey, the first one, is getting a remake.
Yes.
Because I never
was it on the Sega?
It was on the Wii.
It was on the Wii.
It was on the Wii, and it was, I think, exclusive to the Wii. It may have been on something else, but it was definitely not on the Xbox 360. And because I played Epic Mickey 2 and enjoyed that on the 360, but they never released the first one. And as I've said, I recently picked up a Wii, and that's one of the games that I'm hoping, to get into play, but I might wait until the remaster or the remake if it's coming out pretty soon, because then it'll
get that instead.
Yeah, get that instead, because then it'll be updated with better graphics and better controls and whatnot. And so it might still be fun. I think the original one is fairly cheap and fairly accessible to get for the Wii still. So it might be fun to kind of go back and play that one and then compare to the remaster and see how different they are and whatnot. But yeah, it's supposed to be getting remade, and for multiple consoles this time, not just for Nintendo. So that's really cool. And so it's about time where I think a lot of those things like Assassin's Creed 1 and and that sort of thing could get remade or remastered, and that would be nice, and they would sell, you know.
It's crazy to think that Assassin's Creed is going to be like 17 years old.
Yeah, because it came out 2007.
2007. And then they had a gap of a year, and then 2009 was when
Assassin's Creed 2.
2 came out.
Yep.
And then I think they did one every year for a while.
Yeah, until they started doing their 2-year cycle back.
Yeah.
For Origins, I think is when they started taking more than a year in between. Or 2 years in between. Because it just got saturated.
Well, I think the problem is that with Unity's release, it just it was so bugged at the start, so buggy, that it just didn't play.
Yeah. And so they eventually were like, okay, guys.
Yeah, it's like they did the Origins
time.
engine, and they did Odyssey on the Origins engine, and so that's why they released back to back, and then they did Valhalla with a gap.
Yep. And then there was a couple years in between Valhalla and Mirage, right? So
3.
Yeah. Because Valhalla was getting new content for a while, but it was also during that COVID time as well. So that could have impacted, I'm sure, their development cycles. So, ay. Well, anything else for you in April?
No, that was it.
Yeah. I think it was a pretty good little month, you know. I didn't complete a whole lot, but I put in a lot of work on Death Stranding, and then played a couple of shorter things and retro games that I just did a playthrough of and completed and finished. So it was fun.
Yeah, and I did some shorties and then a long one, and I'm not entirely sure what exactly I have planned this month. I bought Mirage on sale to play because I have a week off, and then I haven't 100% decided what I'm going to do after that. I think I might do Oxenfree.
Yeah.
And play some shorter ones again.
I've played a couple of shorter things now that, I think that it's good. Speaking about, referring back to Burnout and, that sort of thing, I find it's helpful to mix up the lengths of games that I play, right? And so after having done a long one, playing a couple of short ones or shorter ones is nice. And so I have done a couple of shorties and have a couple more that are, short to medium planned, and we'll see what happens from there. So it's exciting. It's my birthday month in May. Yay! So got some birthday gaming to do. So yeah, let us know what you guys have been playing, what you've been enjoying, if you've played any things, if you've heard about some of these remasters. What do you think is retro? What do you think is not? What games would you like to see come to modern consoles that haven't been released for it? All of these things are fun to discuss. So leave us some comments down below. We always check those and try to answer them and have a little discussion. It's nice. So thank you guys for watching. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.